Welcome to episode 15 of Two Dudes in Movie, and we are here with a brand new setup. This is incredible. It feels weird. We went from nothing to professional within the span of an episode. He said Slumdog Millionaire.
That's funny.
we were slumdogging it for a while.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because we started out speaking into one mic off my laptop, and now we have three like professional mics with a mixer and a.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, and this guy, he's new.
This is our producer. His name's Paul Tabling. He's my uncle, but a friend of the show, and we brought him on, and we're glad he's here. Thanks for coming, Paul.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah.
He's our resident Quentin Tarantino expert, so that's why he's here today.
Yeah.
We're excited to talk about that. But first, let's do what we've been watching recently. Paul, you kick us off.
Yeah, so you want me to go through everything or just like a couple, one thing? Okay.
Whatever you got recently.
So first off, I've been watching a lot of the, Comic-Con was 2 weeks ago, so a lot of the cool stuff coming out there, new Marvel stuff, all the trailers, the new It trailer, but probably my favorite thing that's came out of Comic-Con was the trailer for Top Gun.
Mm-hmm.
Just to see, the shots in it look awesome. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I was a huge fan of the first movie, and just to see if Tom Cruise can actually bring it back, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
is Val Kilmer?
It looks like he could.
He could, man. It looks really cool. Val Kilmer is not in the trailer, but Ed
I bet he
Harris
makes a guest appearance. Be my guess.
He has to.
Yeah,
he has to.
But Ed Harris is like the admiral, and John Hamm he's in the trailer. I'm sure he's going to be, some other officer, because it looks like they're doing like a space mission, which I think might be interesting. Yeah. And then I've also been watching all the Tarantino movies, trying to prep for this. I didn't quite get through it because I was out of town last week, but I got all the way up to Inglourious Bastards, which I watched yesterday, which is probably one of my favorites.
The movie's awesome. Yeah. I love it.
It was in Luke's top 25, I think.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great movie. And then also been trying to finish Stranger Things 3.
Nice.
Which I haven't finished yet, so don't ruin that for me.
Well, don't listen to last week's episode.
Yeah. Oh, I definitely did.
Oh,
definitely didn't.
Yeah.
But so yeah, that's what I've been watching right now.
Cool. Golly, I feel so bad because I remember the week where you didn't watch a movie, and like that's me this week. Besides, of course, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But Danielle's been wanting to watch Scrubs for the first time, like all the way through. And as you know, if you listen to our top 25 TV shows of all time, you'd know that's my favorite TV show of all time, and I've seen it a billion times. So I'm jacked for it. We're like halfway through season 2, so that's been good. And then I've still been like slugging my way through Chuck. It's just I just don't have time to sit down and watch like a 40-minute episode of TV that often, and so it's like that one's it just depends on the day.
Is Scrubs on? What's it on? Like Hulu?
It's on Hulu. Yeah.
Okay.
It was on Netflix for a long time.
I think we're gonna watch that next after we finish the Goldbergs.
Yeah, you should. It's I love Scrubs so much.
How many seasons is Scrubs?
There's 9
or 8 or 9.
There's 9. The true thing everyone's like is it's 8 because it ends like perfectly at 8, and then 9 was supposed to be like a spin-off, but then like something happened and it ended just being season 9. But season 7 there's only like 12 episodes or something, because that was the year of the writer's strike, and so it's a shorter season. Just like some other stuff, but no, that's basically it.
Cool.
Super lame.
So Callie and I are watching the Goldbergs. It's a sitcom based in the 80s. And it's like about this like kid's like real life, and it's really funny. It's like all the characters in the show are like his actual brother and his actual sister. Like they're actors, but they're like
they're actually all family in real life.
Real names, and it's really funny. Like the producer's like one of the writers, and he's like the actual kid. And at the beginning and the end of every episode, there's like home video footage that's like the basis for the episode. That's really funny. I'm watching Last Chance U,
the new
season 4 right now. It just came out on I forget Monday or Tuesday, and I'm watching it. It's pretty good. I love that show. Actually, I think that show snuck in my top 25. I love that show.
Cool.
We watched Harry Potter 1 and 2.
Yeah, which is
nice.
Last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever. In between this episode and the last one, it was okay. I've seen the movies before. It was a while back, but I think if I remember right, the later movies are better. Like once they get going and they have like a little bit more money and the CGI gets better, I think the movies get better.
Yeah,
we're gonna watch 3 and 4. Like we're doing like a marathon type of thing with like a bunch of our kids from from church, and we're doing like 2 movies a week all summer long. So we're gonna do 3 and 4 today, and 5 and 6 next week, and then 7 and 7.
Yeah,
that's cool.
So we're excited for that.
They also changed directors between 1 and 2, or between 2 and 3, and it's the same. I think the same director for the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
so,
and Dumbledore like dies, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Number 3.
What's his name?
It's that freaking old dude.
Yeah. But it's like something Harris, I think, is his real name. But yeah, he died
after 3.
After 2.
After 2. So 3 through the rest are a different Dumbledore.
No, they're good. I like The Prisoner of Azkaban is one of my favorite.
So that's the one we're watching tonight.
That's a good one.
Cool.
I'm excited for that.
Gary Oldman.
Very old man.
Very old man.
So yeah, I'm excited about that. But that's all I've been watching.
Cool. Well, let's. You guys want to move into our top 5 for the week?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
All right. So this week we decided to do top 5. We did top 5 O-rated movies last week, and so this week it only made sense to do top 5 underrated movies.
Yeah.
My list has. I was super easy to make this for me at least.
It took me a few minutes, but it when it all came together, it came together pretty quick.
What about you, AJ?
I knocked mine out. I knocked out my top 3 or 4 really easy.
Yeah.
The other 2 or 3 honorable mentions, and number 5 was a little more difficult, but it wasn't too bad at all.
Okay. Well, cool.
I have 2 honorable mentions. You guys have 2?
I have 1.
I have 3 actually.
Okay. So Paul, you go ahead.
So just all 3?
Yeah, 4.
Yep.
All right. So this first one, it kind of, I mean, I know it's a series and they're getting ready to release the 3rd movie and everything, but it was just one that I don't feel like has gotten a lot of, I don't know, but it's Olympus Has Fallen, just that whole series.
Yeah.
I love those movies.
Yeah, cool.
Just mainly for, Gerard Butler just being a super action hero. I love those movies, just.
Who plays the president? Isn't it Eckhart?
Yeah, Aaron Eckhart. And
Two-Face.
then in the new one, there's a new trailer, or just released a new trailer for it called Angel Has Fallen. And Morgan Freeman actually becomes the president because, Aaron Eckhart's, I'm assuming, terms are over. And there's like a drone attack on, and it looks pretty cool, but they actually end up framing, or it looks like they framed Gerard Butler for it. So
I like those movies a lot. I like London Has Fallen a lot more than people did. Most people didn't like that one.
Yeah, see, I just kind of lumped it all into one. That's how I feel about
solid choice.
Super action movies. And yeah.
Well, and
great.
I just love, especially in London Has Fallen, there's one action scene closer to the end where it's all one shot, or one just long shot following him, and I just love that stuff.
Yeah,
that
stuff's awesome. That's
a great movie.
And then my next one is Venom.
Yeah, nice.
I love that movie also.
People hated it.
There's a lot of stuff to hate. I'm not going to deny that, but Tom Hardy is great. I just love the character Venom, even from the comic books, so I was just glad to see a good or better Venom representation on screen. That's what I liked about it.
I never saw that one. Did you see that one?
I have not seen Venom yet.
I just heard a lot of negative things about it, so I never saw it.
Well, it's got almost $1 billion in the box office. It got up to like 800 million something or something like that. So I mean,
I'll have to go see it.
I have it. I'll let you guys borrow it.
Yeah.
It's good. And then my last one is a little bit older movie, but again, not really sure if most people put this as an underrated movie, but is Shooter with Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah, that's a good movie. I like that one.
I can say I really like it again a lot. Mark Wahlberg is one of my favorite actors.
Yeah.
So it
doesn't get the praise and the money. It didn't make the money that it deserved either. I think that's a really good choice.
Yeah, I mean they're doing like a whole I guess spin-off TV show.
So my brother loves that show.
Okay,
that's like my parents. My parents don't binge watch anything, and they have watched like 2 seasons in a week.
Wow,
and they like love that show. So I'm gonna watch that show.
The show's got good reviews.
Yeah, I've heard that show is amazing because I think Wahlberg's a producer.
Yeah, he's a producer
or something.
I think, but not the actor. But I mean, I've heard the actor that they got does a good job. So
I'm excited to watch it. I think that sounds really cool.
Yeah, no, the movie got 47%. I remember loving the movie.
Yeah.
I remember really liking it and it being really lowly reviewed, but also not making very much money. And I think that's a really good choice for your honorable mention.
Awesome.
My 2 are Hacksaw Ridge and King Kong. Peter Jackson's King Kong.
Yeah.
So both of these movies, in my opinion, are really, really, really good, and neither one of them get the respect that I think they deserve. Hacksaw Ridge, in my opinion, is one of the best war movies possibly ever.
Yeah.
That was really good.
People are always talking about Saving Private Ryan or Black Hawk Down or whatever else.
The
Mel Gibson movies and stuff.
Right.
Which I love all those movies, but to me, Hacksaw Ridge was really, really, really good, and it didn't get the ratings that people that I think it deserved from people.
It was just a different story that we'd never seen, kind of like Fury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a totally different war movie from like the main character's perspective. Yeah,
well, the battle scene and stuff was really cool. Like where he's like lowering all the people down. They're like,
there was some stuff in that movie that was just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And then King Kong, I love King Kong. A lot of people don't like it because it's slow and it's long and it's. I loved the story of King Kong, and I love like Peter Jackson's like vision of like the island and
Kong. Was it called Skull Island?
No, that was a later movie.
That was a different movie, but I love the idea of beauty is the thing that like killed the beast at the end. And I love how they like tie that in, and that's like a theme throughout the entire movie. Yeah, the scene of King Kong fighting the T-Rexes.
Those were cool.
It's one of the coolest movie scenes ever.
And gross because he like rips open.
It's so awesome. And then as a kid, I was absolutely terrified of the scene where they fall down into like that giant valley at night, and it's just like bugs everywhere. I literally, I hate that.
Was disgusting.
But that was so good.
I remember that.
And then obviously I think the scene in New York's awesome whenever he goes back to New York.
Yeah.
So I love that movie. I think Jack Black is incredible in that movie.
He was cool.
He did good.
Like he does a great job for not being he's not known for being a good actor. He's usually just like
drama
a funny dude
kind of thing.
Yeah.
I thought he did a great job. I love that movie.
Yeah.
My honorable mention is a movie I doubt either of you have seen. It's called Before We Go.
Never seen it.
So this is a movie with your boy Chris Evans, Captain America, in it, and it got a fat 27% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Dang.
You can find this movie on Netflix. I guess you'd call it like a romantic comedy kind of thing, but this plot is super simple. He is a like a musician. He's playing in Central Park, and then this lady comes running by. Someone stole her purse, and then he like tries to help her like find it throughout the night. He gets like beat up by these guys, and it's funny. Yeah,
it's funny.
It's funny.
Oh, okay.
But no, it's just like it's just a fun evening. It's super simple. It's just a fun movie spent over the course of a few hours in New York City at night, and I've seen it a few times. Like I love watching it. It's Danielle's favorite like romantic comedy of all time. So she loves it, and she's the romantic comedy like connoisseur. So I mean, I believe her.
That's awesome.
But it's box office. It made $483,000 on a budget of $3 million.
Ooh, dang!
Oh my gosh!
It flopped, and you really like it.
I like it. Yeah, I like it a lot. It's just not everyone else likes it.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Right.
Check it out if you want a good romantic comedy. It's one where they don't like. Spoiler alert. 1, 2, 3. They don't end up together at the end because she has a husband. So it's more like a friend romantic comedy than anything. Like they meet and then they become like great friends and stuff. And like you feel like something's gonna happen, but it doesn't.
That's interesting.
I liked it. I liked it a lot. But let's move into the top 5, I guess.
5. All right.
Yeah,
so
5.
My number 5 is also probably a movie that neither one of you guys have seen, called Collateral. It's got Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx, and a lot of people I think don't like this movie because of how it ends. Also, kind of a little bit of a spoiler alert, but I mean this movie is also, I think it's like from 2002 or something like
2004.
that. 2004, close. So if you haven't seen it, and you're probably not going to watch it, so it's okay. But it's essentially Tom Cruise is like a hitman, and Jamie Foxx is a cab driver, and Tom Cruise comes into L.A., I believe. Oh, and Jada Pinkett Smith is also in this movie. I forgot.
Oh, nice.
But ends up, Jamie Foxx is at the airport when Tom Cruise lands, and he picks up Tom Cruise, and Tom Cruise is like, all right, I'm going to pay you $500 or something or other to be my driver for the whole night. And essentially Jamie Foxx is driving him around to these murders.
Yeah.
And, So I really enjoy it. It doesn't sound like maybe the best premise for a movie, but just the acting in the movie is really good. Mark Ruffalo is also, he's the cop in the movie.
Yeah, cool.
One of his, I believe, probably early movies, but maybe not. I'm not 100% sure on that. But it doesn't look like Mark Ruffalo. He's got like this big fake cop stash. And,
of course.
And
nice.
It's real funny looking, but... just a super smart cop trying to go after a super smart criminal, and then Jamie Foxx is like caught in the middle. Like, what do I do? Do I like keep doing, or because if I don't do it, he's telling me he's gonna kill me. And then at the end, I'm not gonna ruin it for either one of you guys, just in case you do want to watch it. But it was an ending that I was okay with, but it didn't end the way I would think most people who may have enjoyed the movie wanted it to end. Like my dad watched it and he said, I hate this movie because of the ending.
Yeah.
So
I guess
it sounds interesting.
It sounds like one of the just like the forgotten movies of the early 2000s. Like,
Yeah.
Because it got an 86 on Rotten Tomatoes. It doubled its budget. It made $270 million on a budget of $100 million, and it just feels, because there's a lot of movies that came out in the early 2000s.
Right.
Just like people just forgot about, and So, I mean, I'd put it in that category. So I think you're probably right when you say it's underrated, just because it's one of the forgotten
movies. I like that, how you say that also, forgotten, underrated, same thing. Yeah, that's cool.
For me, number 5 is a movie called The Tourist with Johnny Depp and Angelina Jolie.
I figured he was going to say this one too.
So I put this movie in my top 25. It was like 24, 25.
Yeah.
But I love this movie. A lot of people either don't like it, have never seen it, or have never heard of it. I think I'm actually the only person I've ever talked to who likes it as much as I do. So that's why I'm fighting for this movie. This movie is really, really interesting. It is kind of slow, and it's kind of like a romantic movie, but it's also has this weird Italian job, espionage, bank robber thing going on the whole time, underneath the movie. And then at the end, it all comes together, and it's got a really, really awesome climax that I don't want to spoil for anybody. But definitely go watch it. You can get it on probably Amazon for $2 or $3.
Yeah.
It's not a really well respected movie, so it's pretty cheap.
Yeah. Probably find it in the Walmart bin for $2 or $3.
Probably. Literally the by the door Walmart bin. I love this movie. It's Johnny Depp and Angelina Jolie, and they're incredible, and it's in Venice, Italy, the whole time, so it's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, of course.
It's well,
and it's a beautifully filmed movie.
Yeah,
it's really, really awesome. Great movie. I don't want to talk about it too much because I talked about it a lot before on this show. So number 5.
Mine, honestly, you guys might not even agree with this, but it's Ghost Rider with Nicolas Cage.
Oh. Okay.
I mean,
it's okay.
Yeah, tell us your view. And then,
so I love Nick Cage in this movie.
So you've seen Community, right?
Yeah.
So you know the episode where have you seen Community?
Mm-hmm.
So there's an entire episode of Community where there's a professor who offers a class in the film studies department, and the entire class is Nicolas Cage ? And is he good or bad? So he walks in the first day of class and says good ? And then walks over to the other side of the chalkboard and says bad ? And he asks people to vote good or bad.
That's funny.
The class is split down the middle.
Wow.
So then he's like, okay, you guys go home and watch all the Nicolas Cage movies available. Come back tomorrow with your findings. So Abed, one of the main characters, stays up all night and watches every single Nicolas Cage movie. He's losing his mind because he cannot explain whether Nick Cage is good or bad. And he starts talking to the professor's oh, Abed, you went down a dark path. He's like, I warned you.
That's funny.
And it's really great. But that's really funny that you mentioned Nick Cage, because some people absolutely love him. Well, it's not even some people like him and hate him. It's some movies are he's really good, and then other movies it's he's really bad.
It's a movie to movie thing. The Rock is it's a really good movie.
Yeah.
To me, I think Sean Connery definitely helps.
Sean Connery.
But so keep going with what you were saying about Ghost Rider.
But I love Nicolas Cage in it. I watched the special features on this movie, and he's just one of the guys that's just, because Ghost Rider is already a crazy character.
Yeah,
and so
totally.
For sure,
if you're gonna have someone play everyone knows Nick Cage is crazy, and he's willing to go that far in it. And so I thought he did a good, as cheesy as the movie is,
right?
Because the movie's super cheese.
It is. But I even like the whole Sam Elliott being the old Ghost Rider.
Yeah. I mean, coming up on the blazing horse or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't hate this movie, but I mean, I don't know if I'd put it in underrated quality.
I think this movie is rated appropriately. Would be my would be my comment.
27% Rotten Tomatoes, but
that's pretty low. But I think
I like the action. I like Nick Cage in it, and so
that's funny.
I'd probably give it more like a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah,
that's solid.
Marvel hero that's a little unsung that I don't know if the MCU's ever going to do.
How long until Marvel reboots Ghost Rider?
A long time.
I don't know if they will.
If so, it's better be Nicolas Cage.
It better be Nick Cage.
Well, they tried to. He was, and I haven't seen the latest season, but a couple of seasons ago, he was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Ghost Rider was.
I remember that.
And he was actually really, really cool. I did enjoy that.
Really?
So
he can be.
That's interesting.
He can be really cool. It's just
they might actually
you got to do right by him.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Number 4 is a movie called Moneyball.
Oh yeah,
probably another forgotten
movie.
2000s movie. I'm a huge baseball fan, mostly a Red Sox fan, so I loved at the very end of it how the Red Sox talked to him. But this is just about the 2002, I believe, season for the Oakland A's, and how they really started making it all about the numbers of baseball rather than how the dude looked. Like, oh man, the dude's a great hitter, and I love the scene where they're like in the manager's office, like talking to all the scouts and everything. He's like, oh yeah, the dude's got like and when they start talking about it, I was like, oh yeah, he's got a cute girlfriend and he doesn't party or anything like that. So this is going to be a really good player. Yeah. And we're all just like, wait, what? Who cares about what his girlfriend looks like? Can he hit the ball? So, but I just love how they like.
It's a great movie. I forgot about that movie.
Yeah, Brad Pitt.
Yeah,
Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill.
Great movie.
Back when he was still fat.
I miss Fat Jonah Hill. He was the best.
He was good, man. But yeah,
like that's Fat Thor. Just like
yeah. I think I may have even put that movie in my top 25. I think it's one of my favorite movies. So
Superbad.
Number 4 for me.
Superbad. Yeah, definitely.
Number 4 for me is the original Iron Man. I love this movie. I think it is generally underrated by everyone as far as its importance in the MCU, as far as its awesomeness as like a standalone movie. It made a bunch of money, don't hear me wrong. And it's really popular, don't hear me wrong, because Iron Man's amazing.
Right.
But in my opinion, like when I always see these like top 25 Marvel movie lists, or top 22 or whatever Marvel movie lists, and Iron Man's always like in the 10 to 20 range. I'm just like, guys, this is like number 1 to number 3. It's gotta be. And so to me, that's why I put it on my list of most underrated movies. I think it's like probably the most popular movie on here that's on my list. That's why it's number 4, not like higher. But I do think it's like really, really underappreciated. That's probably a better word for it than underrated.
Yeah,
the underappreciated.
I got you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I love that movie. I think we all agree that movie is really, really, really good.
Yeah.
I think it was my number 1.
It's like the perfect superhero movie.
Yeah, I think it was my number 1 on my Marvel list.
Yeah, and I think you're probably right, because at the time, nobody knew really, unless you were a super comic book fan. Nobody really like Iron Man. What is this? Because everybody knew Captain America and like all the X-Men.
But if you think about it, it's the movie that started the MCU. It's the movie that started Iron Man. It's the movie that restarted Robert Downey Jr.'s career. It's the movie that made superheroes cool. That's kind of the movie that it came out around the same time as the Dark Knight trilogy was kicking around. So superhero movies were on the rise at that point, and a lot of that comes down to Iron Man because he was a cool character, dude. And everybody liked him. He was funny. He was cool. He was a good dude. So I love that movie. I think it's more underappreciated than underrated, but that's why it's on my list.
Cool.
Okay.
Number 4?
Number 4 for me is it's the movie that I said I watched, I think, last week, Annihilation. So this movie underperformed at the box office. It got it made $43 million on a budget of like $40 to $55 million, and so like nobody went and saw it.
Natalie Portman, is that what you said?
Natalie Portman. The movie's got an 87 on Rotten Tomatoes. So I mean, I think is what happened to this movie is like, I watched the trailer and I was like, oh, this looks awesome. But we're in a time now where movies, if it's not like either like a sequel, a remake, or like a Marvel movie, something like that, like nobody's really gonna give it the time of day to go see it.
Right.
And so you have all these movies, because this is based off a book, like loosely based off a book. So you have all these movies that are being made and stuff that aren't something that people already know. And so I think that was kind of what happened to this movie. Because it was awesome. I mean, I definitely recommend people watch it. But yeah, I think this one was just a casualty of the times that we live in currently.
Yeah.
I got you.
It sounded really cool that because you explained like the premise last week.
Yeah.
And so I went home and I like looked up the book series, and I think I might get them from like the library or something and read them before I watch the movie, because the story sounds like really, really cool.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to check it out, because I remember the title, but I don't remember what it was about. And I mean, since you talked about it last week, you don't have to go into it, but I'll have to check it out.
It's pretty cool. It sounded really cool. Number 3.
Number 3 is a movie with my boy Denzel called The Equalizer.
Nice.
The first one?
The first one, yeah. The second one was also really good.
I like the first one.
But yeah, the first one is
Who's the co-star? I forget who the co-star.
You mean the bad guy? Or
Yeah. He's like the other big time name.
Oh man, I can't remember his name, but
I thought it was like I forget. Yeah, I don't know.
He's like the guy. If you need a Russian in the movie, you're gonna cast this guy. Like he's in a little bit of everything. Great actor. I can't remember his name. Not likely that he's listening to the podcast, but if you are, I'm sorry, I forgot your name.
He's the one celebrity.
Yeah. But I love this movie just because I believe it's another. I can't remember. It's based on a comic. I can't remember if it's a DC comic, which it probably was. But but I just love that he's kind of like the guy behind the scenes of like who's helping out the little guy. Like it's all about this girl who he lives in. I can't remember I think it is Boston area. I don't know if they ever say Boston, but when you hear the cops talk, you're like, oh yeah, this is Boston. Boston. But he goes to this diner every night because he doesn't really have much of a life because he's like a retired CIA agent or something like that. And he goes late at night, and all the ladies of the night come through and eat dinner or whatever. And so he like befriends this one, and she ends up getting like beat up real bad. And he just kind of goes on a whole revenge streak from there, which a lot of Denzel's movies are kind of about like that same kind of thing. But I really did enjoy this movie because it's also a fairly, other than when the cops talk, there's really not a whole lot of like, Denzel's not like dropping the F-bomb every other minute or things like that. So it's a fairly clean movie, but also just a really good action movie because I love when he goes into the first action scene and he goes into the mob boss, this back room, and he like looks down at his watch and he starts a little timer, and then at the end of it he's like killed everybody in the room, and he's like 19 seconds, not bad, okay. And I'm like, that's just so cool to
Sounds
me.
very John Wicky.
It is very John Wick, so great movie in my opinion.
I was thinking Two Guns. That's what I was thinking of whenever you said Equalizer. I've seen both movies, but I get them confused because I watch them like at the same time. They're kind of similar.
Two Guns is
that's
also.
What I was thinking of.
I almost had that on here too,
really?
But I was like, I think Equalizer
that's
is
like
better.
Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg.
That's what I was thinking of, not the other one. Number 3 for me is The Departed. Love this movie. I think it's really underrated and really underappreciated. I think, in my opinion, it's the best cop movie ever. It might be the best mobster movie ever. I'm not willing to say that, but I do think it's the best cop movie ever, in my opinion. This movie is unbelievable. You guys have both seen it.
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
Great movie. I love the setting of the movie. I love all the actors. Holy cow! Like what an all-star cast. I love the plot of this movie. Like it's such a really, really, really cool premise. And then the last hour and a half of this movie is just constant tension. Like literally, you're on the edge of your seat the entire time.
Yeah, they threw you for a loop and then 40 times.
Yeah, and then you're like, oh my gosh, it just ended. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, and you're just like, holy cow, and it just like keeps going. Great movie. Really love that movie. I think it's really underappreciated, underrated. So
Martin Scorsese.
Yep. Just like every Scorsese movie, everybody dies then.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, for real.
Everybody dies.
It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
It's pretty sweet. Pretty sweet movie. It's on Netflix too. If you haven't seen it, you want to go watch it. It's definitely worth your time.
Great movie. I love how you put it in the underappreciated, because I remember when the movie came out. That was one of the big movies of the time, but I agree, it's kind of like Luke said, it's one of the maybe forgotten movies of the early 2000s or maybe late 2000s. 2006. So but I remember when the movie came out and I went and saw it with my friends and we all loved it, and then I just kind of like fell by the wayside.
I love that movie. I'd never even heard of it. That's what I'm saying. Like I'd never even, like, no one ever talked to me about it before, and then I saw it on Netflix. I was like, I should watch this. So I think it's really underrated. Number 3, Luke.
Number 3 for me is I don't think you've seen this. I think you might have maybe seen this. Tucker and Dale versus Evil.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay, so this movie it's a horror comedy movie. Is that what you'd probably? Yeah, it literally says right here on Google, horror/comedy.
I didn't know that was a genre, so that's awesome.
This movie is
that's amazing.
Did you like this movie?
That's amazing. I'm just now putting that together. That's actually a genre.
A thing. Yeah,
that's really funny.
It was okay.
Okay. Well, I loved it. It got an 84 on Rotten Tomatoes. It had a budget of $5 million, but it only made $4.7 million, so it didn't make its money back.
Dang.
And so the premise of this movie is these two like country best friends are going to go fix up one of their vacation house in the woods, and so they're on there, and then you're also following these college students. It's like it opens up kind of like a normal like horror movie. These college students are on like a trip and stuff, going out to the woods, and these college students keep running into these guys, and they keep like catching them on the instance where they're saying something and they're hearing it out of context, or seeing it out of context, and they think they're like these killers and stuff. And so the whole time it's just Tucker and Dale are out there just like living their life, fixing up the house. They go fishing and stuff and like do fun things. They're like completely normal, like super nice guys. And all the college kids just keep seeing them in these like out of context situations that look super shady. And there's one point where the college kids like come and they're trying to like attack Tucker and Dale and stuff. And like Tucker is working with a wood chipper and stuff. And then one of the kids like goes to like tackle him or something. He accidentally jumps on the wood chipper, and so Tucker's like, all these college kids are just out here committing suicide, like someone's suicide party.
Yeah.
And the movie, I thought the movie was, so Alan Tudyk is one of the guys in it. He's more.
That sounds insane. Like literally, it sounds bizarre.
It's so funny.
I think another way to word the horror comedy thing is it's a parody. It's like a parody movie of like trying to make fun of, like, you know, like Scary Movie is like making fun of a bunch of different horror movies. That's kind of what this is also.
It's not a very popular genre. It sounds like making $4.7 million. That sounds kind of interesting, actually.
It's only an hour and 29 minutes. I think it's definitely worth the watch. The last 15 minutes of it isn't like awesome to me. That's when I'm just like, eh. But the whole like build up to it, I think I think it's hilarious.
That sounds weird, but I might give it a watch.
It's interesting.
Number two. Okay,
so is a movie called Sicario.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I know we've talked about possibly doing an episode on this, which I love. But I think the thing about this movie is it's not. Again, it's. You root for one person the entire time, and then at the end of the movie, you realize, oh, this isn't who you should have been rooting for. You should have been rooting for this other guy who you may or may not have hated through the whole movie, which I think that's kind of why a lot of people didn't like this movie. Yeah. But that's why I love this movie.
It's a little slow.
It's a little slow.
But I like it a lot. I agree.
But I also love, and a lot of it's done through the music. It just makes it seem really tense. It's all like in strings on minor keys, and it just makes the whole movie really tense. Especially the scene where they, well, for those of you who don't know about the movie, it's a movie about where they're, it's the ATF or FBI, one of them, are trying to catch this cartel guy. And there's a part where they go across the border to Mexico, and just the whole time, I mean, I saw this movie in the theaters again, but the whole time you're like sitting on the edge of your seat, you're like, okay, what's going to happen? Because they're going into Juarez, which notoriously, and I'm sure still is, one of the worst places in Mexico, maybe the world, to go.
Right.
And they, you know, but they go in with like a SEAL team essentially because they don't know what's going to happen. But the actors in this movie are Josh Brolin, Emily Blunt is the main. I would say again who they gear up to be the main character because it's kind of from her perspective. But the dude who steals this movie for me is Benicio del Toro.
Yeah,
he's
the face of the movie in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean definitely, and he definitely is the face of the second movie, which I need to watch again because I've only seen one time, but I didn't like it as much as the first one.
I heard it was still pretty good though.
It was still pretty good, but I love what they did with, because it wasn't a sequel that came out like a year or two later. It came out maybe 5 or 6 years later, but they kept all of the same, even like the little side characters, like the dude from Burn Notice.
Yeah.
He's in the second one
Ray
also.
Well, is that his name?
I'm not sure.
I'll look it up.
But I love when directors do that between sequels. They even just the little side characters that you like kind of.
Jeffrey Donovan,
yeah.
Jeffrey Donovan's a different guy.
But I just love Sicario. It's one of my favorite movies. I think it is in my top 25 pretty high.
Yeah,
so.
It's definitely underrated. I 100% agree with you, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, I love the movie.
For sure.
But it's like in the mainstream media and stuff that you don't hear anybody talking about
much
it,
about it
even
at all.
when it came out.
Number 2 for me is Star Wars Episode 3.
Yeah.
Hot take. I stinking love this movie. I've argued with Luke about this movie. Like, we've both agreed and argued with each other against the world
that it's
for this movie, that it's amazing.
And me.
Yeah.
I don't agree with this.
Yeah. A lot of people disagree with this statement. That's why it's on my number 2. I love this movie. I think it's my personal favorite Star Wars movie ever. Which, like I said, hot take. A lot of people disagree with that.
Yeah.
Which we'll dive into that in December when Star Wars is like up and running again.
Episode 9.
So we'll dive into that discussion way more deeply. But love that movie. I think it's amazing what George Lucas accomplished in that movie to tie the prequels and the originals together. I think the Anakin storyline is incredible. I think Obi-Wan is amazing. I love all the fights in that movie. You've got Yoda versus Palpatine. You've got Palpatine versus the Jedi Council, which turns into Palpatine versus Mace Windu. You've got Obi-Wan and Anakin versus Dooku. You've got Obi-Wan versus Anakin. You've got Obi-Wan versus Grievous.
Yoda versus
Palpatine. I mean, like, literally the best lightsaber fights ever are in this movie.
The world building in it was awesome.
Oh, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. The space battle that opens it up is amazing. Some of the stuff that they show with the clones in this movie is amazing. The Anakin killing younglings stuff is like really like dramatized and made fun of. Yeah, people make fun of that a lot, but that's actually like really sad. And then the Obi-Wan Anakin scene is always made fun of, like, out of context. But then when you're watching that movie, that scene is like heartbreaking.
If you're not bawling,
oh, you mean at the very end?
At the very end. Yeah. The Padme storyline's okay. I've never really liked her character, but she's okay. Like that's even sad when she like actually dies. And then I love how they tie it into the 4th movie with Obi-Wan in the desert with Luke. So I love that movie. I will forever defend that movie's honor. I think it was like number 4 or 5 in my top 25 movies of all time. But like I said, really very unpopular opinion, but I think it's really underrated.
No, I 100% agree.
And we'll talk about that later.
We'll
have a very heated conversation.
Right, yeah. Don't want to take up another hour just talking about...
So we opened the Star Wars Pandora's box one time on one of these kinds of discussions, and we were like, oh, crap, we've been talking for 45 minutes. We should probably talk about our movie.
Star Wars,
Yeah, so anyway, number 2.
Number 2 for me is another movie I recently watched. It's Blade Runner 2049.
So... I still haven't seen either movie, so I want to for sure because you've hyped it up a lot. It sounds really cool.
It's pretty stinking good. Like, I like it a whole lot better than the first one.
And same thing for me. I haven't seen either one of them, and that's one of the things of, when guys talk to me about, old movies and everything, like, you've never seen Blade Runner? I was like, I don't know. It kind of slipped through the cracks, but I definitely want to check it out because I love Harrison Ford, and I don't remember what episode it was, but we talked about where you said Harrison Ford's really not in it very much. It's more, is it Ryan Gosling?
It's Ryan Gosling, yeah. He plays, he's the main character, and God, I love him so much.
It sounds great. It sounds really great. Like, you've talked about it on the show probably 2 or 3 times now, and it sounds awesome. I for sure want to watch it.
Yeah,
but you said we need to watch the first one first.
For context.
Just for just for building the story.
The first one is slow, and there's not a whole lot of dialogue, but so I think this one, where it suffered was it came out like 20 years later after the first Blade Runner, and so the first Blade Runner in theater, like, it didn't do well until they released the director's cut afterwards, and that's where it really did well. But it's more of like a cult following, I want to say, and so I think that factored into it not being an overly super like popular movie with the general public anyways, and then it also being a sequel to a movie that was already 20 years old or whatever.
Right.
That's awesome.
But it got an 87 on Rotten Tomatoes. It's higher than the current movie we're going to review today. Because
it's only been out for 2 days.
Yeah, the box office it got $259 million on a budget of $185, so it really didn't make much more than what it spent. So man, this movie is stinking good. It won an Oscar for like visuals, I think, and everything, because the movie's like cinematically and like just visually awesome. It is so good.
Might have to do an episode on it.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
It's a long one, 2 hours and 44 minutes, but I loved every minute of it with it. It kept me engaged the whole time. And I loved every character that they like made you like.
It's not based on a book or anything, right? It's just the first movie.
The first movie, I want to say it's like loosely based on the book. Do cyborgs dream of electric sheep? I think that's the name of the book. I could be wrong, but
something like that.
It's something like that, and so I want to say it's like loosely based on that. It's an older book and stuff, and but the movie is freaking good, and it just did not get any of the praise or hype. The people that have seen it are like, yes, but there's definitely a whole lot of people that didn't see. Like the Google users, it says right here, 83% like this movie, and usually that number on movies are usually like critically acclaimed is much higher. And so this is lower than the Rotten Tomatoes score.
Okay.
Yeah, it's Facebook. It got like a 4.3 out of 5. So I mean, it's not as high as it should be, in my opinion.
Interesting.
Yeah, have to check it out.
Number one
is, again, it's funny, I didn't realize how many early 2000s movies I have, but this is probably another one. The director has a ton of awesome movies, and I think that a lot of them kind of outshadow this movie, but it's Signs by M. Night Shyamalan. Again, I think we've talked about maybe doing an episode on this movie as well. I love this movie. It's one of the movies that... believe it or not, that my mom and I would watch a lot of the times. Like if my dad went out of town, who also hated this movie, my mom and I would also always have to watch this movie whenever my dad was gone.
I've heard him rant about this movie before.
Oh my gosh, yeah. But I love one of the first movies I think I ever saw that had such a twist at the end that really made me kind of fall in love with trying to figure out a movie before it was over. But up to that point, I was just like, just a movie watcher who just enjoyed movies. But after that, I was like, okay, I want to try and figure this out while I'm watching it so I'm not so surprised at the end, because it's just such a massive twist. And you haven't seen it, right?
I've never seen it.
Okay, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but it's Mel Gibson is a dad in like a small town farm. And it's one of the first, the trailer, I'm sure you remember seeing the trailer, had a bunch of like random weird crop circles in it and everything like that. So it's an alien movie. But that's what you're led to believe from the trailers and the very beginning of the movie. But Mel Gibson has 2 kids, a son and a daughter, and his wife has died in a car crash. And you see little flashbacks of that, which I thought were really cool, really well done. And then Joaquin Phoenix is his brother, who lives with them. I believe one of his first movies, or early movies, maybe not his first movie. But really, really great acting, really great directing, really well written. So I'm not going to talk too much about it, but we'll get definitely into it if we do an episode about it. But I love this movie.
Yeah, M. Night Shyamalan, I think what happened with him is like he had this string of like just good movies there, like Signs, and then was it Unbreakable?
I know The Village came out right after Signs. I think Unbreakable came out before this movie, actually.
Yeah.
Because I think it was like a 98 or something like that is when Unbreakable came out. Another amazing movie. I'd kind of like to talk about maybe one day doing that, because it's
Glass.
Unbreakable, Split, and then Glass, which again is a sequel that's come out now 20 years later from the original movie. So I haven't seen it yet, but I'm interested to see how good it is.
Yeah, but he's had just a real string of just like bad movies. Like he had those. Yeah. He had those like that pocket of good movies, and then he like released movies like After Earth and like Avatar: The Last Airbender, which were both like totally garbage.
Yeah.
And then he's like come back with Split, and then I think Glass was pretty good. And so I mean he's kind of making a return to form, I want to say.
Yeah, I actually haven't ever seen Split or Glass, so those are which I didn't realize until very recently that Split was tied in with Unbreakable, which is an amazing movie. So good. It's a really interesting take on superheroes.
We may have to do that at some point because I'd love to do this.
Could do a Shyamalan episode or something.
That'd be cool.
It'd be fun. Yeah. My number one is a movie called The Prestige.
Oh,
We've talked about it before. A bunch. I love this movie. It felt wrong of me to have a list of underrated movies and not put The Prestige on there. But Prestige, literally, I feel like a televangelist whenever I talk about this movie because I'm like, you guys got to watch it. Like, you got to watch it. And people have never heard of it. And I think it's really sad that people have never heard of it because it's a stinking amazing movie.
Yeah,
for I think it was number 2 on my list of top 25 movies of all time.
Yeah.
You sure it wasn't number 1?
I thought it was number 1, but I actually double-checked Return of the King is number 1,
okay.
Which I stand by that decision.
Okay.
But I do love The Prestige. I think Christopher Nolan, I've talked about him a lot. He's amazing. This is his best movie, in my opinion. It's one of his first movies. The Dark Knight trilogy is really, really solid. Inception's great. Interstellar's great. Dunkirk's great. But I think Prestige is my favorite because of the plot and because of the plot twists throughout, but then also because of the gigantic reveal at the end. The two magicians that you learn how they do their tricks at the end. I think it's amazing. I've talked about it before. I don't want to talk about it too much, but great movie. You guys should go watch it. I think it's still on Netflix. You can get it cheap online if you need to.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
Okay.
Number one.
Number one for me is, I don't think either of you see this coming, Treasure Planet.
Oh,
Treasure Planet.
The animated one?
The animated movie.
I love that movie.
That's good, man.
That's a great movie.
That's so this was like my favorite animated movie. It's one of my top 3 animated movies of all time.
It's a great movie.
I love this movie, but I think it is like severely underappreciated
100%.
and underrated. It's one that I would love to see. Like, if Disney's sitting here doing these freaking live action remakes, do Treasure Planet.
No doubt.
Because that would be cool with all the special effects you can do.
Yeah.
So I know you guys have both seen it, but I'm just gonna do a quick. Like, it's basically it's Treasure Island but in space. Like, you know, the not the rocket ship, but the boat, the pirate ship flies, and then they have all like the mechanical advancements and stuff. That they have like robot kind of people. Like the bad guy in the movie has a robot leg, arm, eye.
His eyeballs like.
He's just like, I think he's got a couple like robotic.
His legs all janked up.
But and then the captain in the movie is that like cat lady, and she's awesome. You have a really just like a, how was it? Her first mate, I think, dies. Like, he gets thrown off the ship like by the cook guy that's like undercover, and like you just feel in that moment you're like, oh my god, that
movie
sucks.
Terrified me when I was a child. And the more I watched it, obviously the more I loved it, but I was scared to death. The first scene whenever that guy like crashed, he's like really old and he's like telling like whatever about where the treasure is. That was
Billy Bones.
Yeah, Billy Bones. That was so scary. I was terrified of that.
I love the main character, Jim Hawkins.
Who plays him in this movie?
Let me look up the cast real quick.
Because I remember Martin Short.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Okay, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Yeah. I remember Martin Short is like the little robot guy, like the stranded island robot, and it's so funny. I remember that. That's the one thing that I really remember.
He's hilarious. It's like computers.
Yeah, it's like all messed up.
So he like goes crazy half the time.
Yeah, Emma Thompson is Captain Amelia, who's the cat lady I was talking about, and she's probably one of the best characters in the movie. I think, probably the 3 main characters in this movie are so strong. Like the cook guy, that like him and the kid end up just become buddy, like, because the cook, I can't remember his name.
Well, it's the Long John Silver character.
Yeah, because he's there. He's like undercover, but he's like gonna like overthrow the ship and stuff. And him, and then he just like becomes really connected with Jim Hawkins and stuff. Like they have developed that connection. And then you have Captain Amelia, who's like the hard A. She's awesome. And then I don't know. I think the main 3 characters are really strong in this movie, and that helps it out. And the story is super cool. The visuals are awesome. It's a great movie that I think nobody talks about anymore.
That's a good one, man. I like that movie. I remember seeing the theaters also, because again, I'm older than you guys are, so I've seen a lot of movies in theaters. But yeah, I remember seeing that and really being, because Treasure Island is one of my favorite books ever. I remember reading it as a kid, and my copy that I had, I don't have a copy anymore. I need to buy one, but it was just worn out, falling apart. I love that book. And I love every movie that they've ever done, even the Muppet version. Like, I love any movie that's Treasure Island based. So yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
Good choice.
All right, was that it?
That it for, I think
done,
that was,
boys. That was fun.
Only took 50 minutes.
Let's awesome. Move into the main attraction of the day. So we went and saw the newly released, the 9th film by Quentin Tarantino, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh, yeah.
I will give us the quick rundown of this movie, how it's doing like so far in the plot and everything.
Cool.
So 86% on Rotten Tomatoes, 86 on Metacritic, 8.9 out of 10 on IMDb, 88% people like this movie. So, again, it was directed by Quentin Tarantino. There's a budget of $90 million. I'm not totally sure how it's doing so far this weekend.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it literally just came out, so we won't see the weekend box office stuff until Monday pretty much. But the movie is based in Hollywood in 1969 Los Angeles, where everything is changing, as TV star Rick Dalton, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and his longtime stunt double Cliff Booth, played by Brad Pitt, make their way around an industry they hardly recognize anymore. The 9th film from the writer-director features a large ensemble cast, multiple storylines, and a tribute to the final moments of Hollywood's golden age.
Yeah.
So that's it.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I love the fact that, and let's obviously just put out a big spoiler thing right now, because I definitely want to talk about the end of the movie a lot. But I love how in that little synopsis they said multiple storylines. That was the one thing that I missed from reading that and learning about this movie before, that I was not prepared for, and I think that's what I loved about this movie.
Yeah, it did very well, but I'm sure we'll talk about that when we get to plot. Sure. So, AJ, do you want to start us off with our first category?
Yeah, so we score the movies based on 5 categories. The first category is like the idea / premise of the movie. I thought the idea for this movie was really, really cool because of the time period that it was set in. Also because of it, you have these clips in the movie that are of them actually acting or flashbacks or different, just a lot of different really cool things happening. Like there's one scene in the movie in particular in the bar when DiCaprio's first meeting the hero of the TV show, and that whole
Timothy
scene,
Oliphant,
and that whole scene is 5 or 10 minutes long, and it's all from like back behind the camera. And at one point they talk to the director, and they talk to
he's like line,
he says line, and so like I love that kind of stuff. I thought it was a really that's a cool premise for the idea for the movie, as far as having a movie inside of a movie or a TV show inside of a movie.
Right.
I thought that was really cool. I love the Hollywood setup. I thought that was really fun. I thought the time period was really fun. So as far as that stuff goes, the setup for the movie I thought was really, really well done. Like the first 30 minutes was really great. And then the idea behind the whole movie that Tarantino threw out there I think was really cool.
Just the alternate like history of
not that so much for me personally, but that was a cool spin. I more appreciated like the idea of like the actual like movie inside the movie. I thought that was really, really cool. Like they're on set a lot of times. The conversation he has with like the little girl. Yeah, that was really cool. The scene with Brad Pitt and Bruce Lee. I thought that was super cool. Like just stuff like that. I thought that was really like he gave himself a lot of opportunities for really cool moments. I thought he nailed it with some of that stuff.
Did you know about the Manson murders before this movie?
So I knew what they were.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
But like I didn't catch it at all. At one point when we were watching it, Paul was like, "Oh, did you get it?" And I was like, "Get what?"
Yeah. I leaned over and I was like, "Oh," and I wrote this down because I tried to remember. It's the same thing with a lot of Quentin Tarantino movies, and I may be getting a little out of order, but you really, a lot of the times, do not fully understand the movie until about 45 minutes left in the movie. Yeah. And definitely was this. And I leaned over because, again, I trying to figure out a movie, that's like my goal. And I rarely can do it with Tarantino movies, but because there were so many key things, and this may be more of a plot thing, so I may save it, but to leading up to the end that I just loved, that I didn't remember until the very end of it. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's what this whole movie's about. So, but I love the idea of this movie. Again, totally agreeing with, love the way they shot it, but of the idea.
Yeah, so to me, that was more of like a cinematic element, which I'd love to talk about later. For sure. But it was all set in like the Wild West. And so the whole movie was shot in like a Western style. Yeah. With like lingering on shots and taking longer shots and drawing the camera around. And having like the gunslinger like stand there, you know, motionless for a while. Like they did a lot of that kind of stuff that I thought was really cool. To shoot like a modern movie in like that Western style. I thought that was really cool. I gave this section a 7 out of 10.
The idea and premise.
Okay. I thought it could have been a little bit more dynamic in the sense of could have had more going on as far as like setting up the plot. Like for me, the first 30 to 60 minutes wasn't necessarily about the plot as much as setting up like the actual like setting of the movie and like the characters of the movie. I would have preferred like a hook early on that would say, hey, this is what the movie's about, this is what we're going, and this is kind of the like hold on to your seats, we're gonna go in this direction and follow us there. To me, it never really did that. It was more of like, here's Brad Pitt, here's Leonardo DiCaprio, here's their friendship, and let's just follow them around, which I thought was cool. But to me, it could have been done a little better. That's why I give it a 7.
Well, I think I kind of attribute a little bit of that to, again, and I didn't catch it when it first happened, but if you're not real familiar with the Manson murder, then you didn't get, and I didn't when it first happened, that that was Charles Manson that like walked up, the creepy dude that walked up. I completely was like, what? Who is this random dude?
That part, like, it was like you said, just like a minute or two. But that was so creepy.
It felt super random too.
Yeah, well, and I think like again, like I know a few guys who always are like, oh man, there's like a Manson like tons of documentary stuff, and he watches all of them. Like for him going into this movie, I know he would have even seen the street name and be like, oh dude, that's what this movie is. But just seeing him, and I remember like there's just a really well done like creepy shot where he like looks around the dude's the other guy, and I'm just like, okay, this dude is weird. But it all clicked. And I think I understand what you're saying and that's why I gave it an 8. It was kind of knocking it a couple of points.
So see, I did not catch that at all. Like, I knew that dude was weird and creepy, and then we never saw him again. So I was like, well, that was like kind of a wasted storyline. I knew who it
was as soon as he walked up. I was like, oh crap! And that made it even more creepier for me.
Right, and see, I think if going into that you knew that, like I think that would have been your little twist that you would have been looking for. But I get what you're saying if not knowing that.
My scores are going to be relatively low for this movie. I think if I were to rewatch it, I think they would be higher, because I think knowing that would have been helpful, compared to someone who like already knew that going in might have higher scores. Because like for me, that hurt the movie in my opinion. But like I said, if I rewatched it, I think it would be higher. But I enjoyed the idea behind the movie. Like I thought that was like really fun. What'd you think?
I gave it a 9 out of 10. Like this is everything that honestly that I love. This is everything that I wanted in a movie. I love Hollywood. Like, not like the whole like celebrity aspect.
Not very many movies are done like in that.
And I like setting. I love learning more about like the shooting, the TV world, the movie world. I love learning about that. And this is like seeing. Sure, it was like a dramatization of it. So, big words in me are not good. But it was everything I wanted, and like the fact that it was pretty much based around the Manson murders and stuff, and the murder of Sharon Tate. And so since I knew what they were, and I was able to catch those like little pieces that they gave you throughout, that was enough for me to get the tension, to get all that. But mostly this movie is based around, like they set out to be based around DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, and Sharon Tate, and like you're watching basically just a sliver of these people's lives and their struggles, what they go through, their interactions together and all that, and eventually they just really tie it all up at the end. And for me, like I liked it a lot. Like I loved this movie just because of all that. Like for me, I didn't have to think a whole lot since since I knew what the Manson murders were, like all that I knew what was happening. They panned to the street name.
And see, that would have been a big factor for like, again, a buddy of mine who knows, he would have seen, I don't know how you say it, Cello or CeeLo, whatever Drive. Then that would have been the biggest indicator if I would have remembered. And then when I went home, I was like, oh yeah. But so
I didn't catch that at all, because they painted the street and I was like, what the crap?
Well, and then the 60s vibe they have.
That was the radio, going, the TV going, all the different,
all the cars. That was one of my like. I loved how they did that.
It was fun,
and I love old Western movies like that. I love. Especially when they talk about the spaghetti westerns, like I mean, they essentially set him up basically as like Clint Eastwood is essentially who they.
There was one point where they showed his silhouette on the ground. And I was like, that legit looks just like Clint Eastwood. From like Good, Bad, and the Ugly or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought.
Well, and Clint Eastwood started on TV shows too. He was in Gunsmoke, and
it sounded to me. It sounded like DiCaprio's character was supposed to be the Clint Eastwood character that like didn't quite reach the heights of Clint Eastwood. That's that's the way they set him up to me.
Yeah. Well, it's a guy that reached his heights in the Western, and then all of a sudden Hollywood started changing because like it said in the description, it's the end of the era, the golden age of Hollywood. And that's where things were just like really happening and stuff, and like because the Westerns were pretty much the Marvel Cinematic Universe of the 60s or whatever.
Well, you got John Wayne, Clint Eastwood, Dean Martin.
Yeah, so the day that Marvel finally falters and crashes through the floor is going to be the day.
May that day never come.
Yeah, I know, right? Is basically what they were living through there at the end of the golden age. And I absolutely, again, I loved it. I loved following DiCaprio's character, Rick Dalton, as he struggled with this changing Hollywood. And especially his stunt double, Cliff. Like, for me, this movie is everything I wanted it to be. So, 9 out of 10.
So, let's just jump right into characters since we've already talked about it a little bit. Characters are second section we score.
We'll do the main three.
I think there were 3 characters that are worth talking about.
We had the 3 they pretty much followed throughout the whole movie.
Right.
The 3
all the other characters were just kind of like...
Yeah, I would agree. I may think of another one that I kind of want to talk about, but yeah, let's definitely talk about the main 3.
So to me,
who do you want to start with?
I don't know. I'm gonna have the lowest score in this section.
Okay.
Probably. I'm probably gonna have the highest.
So if you want me to go first, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, let's just you go first, and let's just
Okay, so I'll be like the kind of the devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
I thought Leonardo DiCaprio, this was his best performance ever, in my humble opinion. Like, I know he won an Oscar for
The Revenant.
The Revenant. I thought he was better in this movie than he was in that movie. Like, I think he deserves more of an Oscar for this than he does for that.
He acted his butt off.
He was incredible. And that's more of a cinematic element for me. That's why my score for that section is going to be higher. But I gave the character section a 6 out of 10. I thought Leo's character was fascinating, but he never, developed at all. Like, he stayed relatively flat the entire time. As good as it was, he was incredible, but he never changed.
You don't think the scene with him and the girl changed him?
I thought the scene with him and the girl was incredible. I love that scene, and then even taking that a step further with the torture, not the torture scene, the hostage scene, where he's holding the girl at gunpoint and she turns around and says that was the best acting I've ever seen, and he starts crying. That was awesome. But to me, his character was the best character, by a lot, in my opinion. Brad Pitt's character for me was really cool. The fact that he was ex-military, the fact he killed his wife, the fact that he was out of a job, the fact that he was an awesome fighter. He fought with Bruce Lee and kicked his butt. To me, his character had a lot of unused potential, in my opinion. They could have used him in a bigger story way. They mentioned the fact that he killed his wife or whatever, and then they never talked about it again.
It was just kind of a lingering thing the whole time. That's why people didn't want to hire him. He had this reputation in Hollywood now as the guy that killed his wife.
Right. But so, to me, I thought that was a huge storyline that could have been, that was just never, not even a storyline, but use that quality in his character to create a void between him and DiCaprio, or to create something some more drama that could have happened with him, rather than him just stumbling upon the hippie camp or whatever. They could have used that, in my opinion, in a different way, which obviously they needed his character to be out of a job to make the plot work, where he had free time to go to the camp and stuff, which that ended up working out for the plot. And then the girl character, I literally didn't care about her,
Margot Robbie,
at all. When the camera was on her, I was I
enjoyed her sequences.
She was she never did anything for me.
I think
I know what the point of her character, obviously, but I don't know.
She's someone you could have probably removed and it would have been okay.
But see, so if you know the story going in, then you're following her around, and you're assuming, oh, she's gonna die, because you think that she's Sharon Tate and she's gonna get murdered, right? That's the whole point of her being there. And then obviously the twist at the end is that she doesn't. So that was, to me, what they were trying to do, was follow her around and give her oh, she's happy, oh, she's doing normal things,
they wanted to build
a normal
attachment.
person. Yeah, she's going to watch her movie because she's getting to watch herself on screen for the first time or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And then she's going to die. It's going to be really tragic and sad, and that never happened. But so to me, like, they could have done that in a easier way or a shorter way. Like, she was like almost as much of the part of the movie as Brad Pitt's character. Like, she was on screen close to the same amount of time. And, like, nothing ever happened when she was on screen, like, at all. The whole storyline with her and, like, the director and, like, the weird boyfriend and, like...
Well...
I know that's probably all, like, based on...
That's all what the history
those are the people
is.
that died.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. So, I don't know. To me, like, she was just, like, meh. I loved Kurt Russell.
Yeah,
the
director.
I thought he was hilarious. Him and his wife were great. I thought that was a super fun. That like 20-minute scene of like him being him being there and then him fighting Bruce Lee. Like that was like one of my favorite scenes in the movie. So for me, I gave character a 6. I think there were some really cool moments for the characters, but overall, I thought the characters were okay. That's probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but I think, like I said, Leonardo DiCaprio was amazing. I thought Brad Pitt played his character really well. I just think his character was kind of like unused in the ways that I think he could have been used.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So you said you gave it a 10, so you go ahead.
Yeah.
I also gave it a 10.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So y'all go ahead.
Yeah. So I'll just kind of go in the same order. So DiCaprio, I think the thing that I loved about his character was just the sheer emotion that he showed, because I could just imagine how being an actor can have those ups and downs like that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because you go from having a job on one of the they pitched it as one of the biggest TV shows around, to going to being the bad guy on one episode of a show every other week.
Yeah.
I just really, and that's kind of the way Tarantino does. You really kind of have to think about and get in the mindset of each of his characters. Because I was really trying to get in the mindset of like, man, that would really suck. And I love the whole scene, like you said, of the girl telling him that was the greatest acting, and then he cries. Like that was in the trailer. And everybody like thought that, and there were a few people even in the theater who like laughed at that point. Because I mean, it is funny. Like he's kind of crying a bunch at that point. But I was like, man, that just really shows how emotional and how crazy his life is right now. And I think he did I would agree that this is probably his best acting he's ever done.
Yeah, I thought he was amazing. I thought he was. I thought he carried the movie. Like you said this at the theater. Every time he was on screen, it was like dynamite. Like he was so good.
That's when I was like, I was in tune to the whole movie. That's when I was just like laser focused.
Like whenever it would like change scenes and it was like a Margot Robbie scene, I was like, nah. If it was Brad Pitt scene, I was like, okay, here we go. And then it was like Leonardo DiCaprio. I was like, oh man, like, let's go. Like it was like.
His scene in the trailer after he got back because he like couldn't remember. He
messed up his lines.
He messed up. That was apparently all improv.
That was awesome.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, but he got back, and that scene was one of my and then the one where he's with the girl, like the time where he's reading his book, and then while he's acting, of course. But those were my two favorite scenes in the movie, and because I think he killed it.
That scene where he's cutting the hostage scene, like for like the take in the show, and then afterward. Like that 5-minute bit of him acting his butt off, like for the take, and then afterward, like actually for us in the movie acting, like crying, like those two things in a row were just amazing.
You could tell he was fully like on character development wise, but before that he seemed kind of just like kind of bummy in a sense, and like so he
real depressed.
Yeah, he kind of has this revelation with that girl because he opens up that book that he was reading. And he says he's sitting beside her and he starts like telling the girl like what it is because she asks, and he's sitting there like realizing like that's his life.
His life.
Yeah.
See, okay, so I didn't know if that was like him explaining the plot of the book and then realizing it, or if he was like explaining his life as the plot of the book and not actually talking about the book. I think it was the
plot of the book, and he was realizing it as he was sitting there, and that's because he started to cry, and she was like, "Oh, it's okay. I'm sure it's a good book."
Right? Yeah, she didn't get it, but I would definitely have. I saw it as he was explaining it, and he just didn't think about it really until. Because I mean, a lot of those, and I've read quite a few of those old Western books, and they're not thinkers at all. Yeah. It's just
like a Hallmark movie or something.
Yeah,
they're just fun.
When he really starts talking about it, he's like, oh my gosh, I'm the main character. This is all me.
Yeah.
And I just love that scene and again, everybody, it was funny to see him just randomly start crying.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I saw it more of like as just him showing so much emotion about how depressing his life really is at that moment in time. And then did you just see it kind of come to a little bit of a fruition at the end of, when he actually goes and makes the spaghetti western movies, and he does like 4 movies in like 6 months or something or other. Like, he's kind of making it. He accepts to an extent.
Yeah. And he's going to do the best of his abilities with what he's got and what he's going to do. He's an actor, and he's going to act.
Right.
My question for you guys about him was he a good friend or a bad friend to Cliff?
I thought he was,
because like obviously Cliff is like an amazing friend. Mm-hmm. That's like the whole premise of the movie. Is like Cliff is like the best friend anyone could have. Yeah. But then my question was, does that mean that DiCaprio was like a bad friend, or was he actually like a good friend?
I think he started out as a good friend, and then he got, because you saw those flashbacks, and I think he was a good friend, and then he got kind of bummy, like I said. Yeah. And that's when he started to really just like, because like the scenes when he's like driving him around and he says like, go fix my trailer, he says go fix my antenna, he's like just like basically like using their relationship to like have him like help him. But then there are definitely scenes where it's like they're like actually best friends, and he like actually cares about him, and he actually gets him a gig, and actually like so he takes him to Italy with him.
Yeah, exactly. I went back and forth the whole movie, like, because Brad Pitt's like an amazing friend, right? But then the whole movie, I was like, I still don't know if DiCaprio's like a good friend or if he's just like using this guy.
Well, I think and I'll talk about Brad Pitt's character right now too. Like you said, he's like the perfect friend, but at the same time, you think about it as like, he's also like a little bit of an employee also. So
that's true. I didn't look at it that way at all.
So I don't really feel like he was putting him down like, oh, go fix my satellite. It's out.
He pays him to do that.
He pays him to do that.
So
but
I didn't see it that way.
That's how I saw it for those things. So those things really didn't bother me. But just to be able to have somebody like that, because if he did not have Brad Pitt, I honestly think he may have just like, taking a handful of pills and ended it. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
Brad Pitt was the glue that held him together. Awesome. So that's why I really love Brad Pitt. And even the Sharon Tate stuff, I would agree with you sitting there in the movie at the time, not remembering that Sharon Tate was her scenes essentially were an homage to the real Sharon Tate, because when she goes and sees that Wrecking Crew movie with Dean Martin, that's actually Sharon Tate. Yeah. They didn't CG Margot Robbie into it, which I love.
They just made her look more like.
Yeah, they just exactly. And so I love that they did that, and I'm sure the members of the remaining Tate family would really appreciate that. So that's how I saw that character unfolding, and so that's why. But
I was waiting for Brad Pitt and her to get together. Like the whole time, I was just waiting for them to like cross and then like get together. That's what I was waiting for.
Yeah, and I kind of figured that too.
Like whenever he was fixing the antenna.
Yeah,
and she was at home. I was like waiting for her to like look out and wave, and then him to wave, and like I thought that was going to happen.
Yeah,
I never did. My favorite Brad Pitt scene was whenever he's sitting in the trailer with DiCaprio, and he's like, "Hey, can you get me a gig?" And he's like, "Nah, dude, it's this guy." Yeah. He's like, oh, okay. And he's like kind of bummed. And he goes back home and he like replays the line in his head. And then like cuts to it and he's like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I loved that scene. That was great.
The flashbacks in this movie were perfect.
That was great. I like Brad Pitt a lot. I think he was honestly almost as interesting as DiCaprio. I just feel like he was underused. That's Brad probably Pitt. A better term than...
I mean, DiCaprio was the main character in a sense.
He carried the movie.
And I'd say Brad Pitt was probably also a main character, but he felt more like a supporting character, which he was to DiCaprio in the movie. Like, that was his whole point. He was there to support DiCaprio, and like he was a stuntman. Yeah. And so I think they used him in the movie like as a stuntman would be used, kind of just like second fiddle to DiCaprio.
I thought it was interesting that he like had a junky car and lived in a junky trailer.
Because you didn't expect that, did you?
Yeah,
like I didn't expect it.
I thought that was interesting. Like I just don't know. Like I feel like he could have been used more, but obviously he was used more in the plot because he was the one that connected the plot to DiCaprio. Because DiCaprio had no idea what was happening, right? As far as the Mansons go.
Did he feel like? To me, he felt like Brad Pitt playing a character. Like I feel like I've seen this kind of character, him play this kind of character before. Like I had no problem with it. Like I loved it the whole time. I thought it was great. It's just to me it felt like I've seen this character by him.
Honestly,
before.
it kind of felt like Brad Pitt playing himself as like a poor actor.
Yeah.
Like that's what it felt like, because he was like still cool and suave and like, good looking, but he was just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I liked several of the scenes that he was in. I think the one on the roof is my favorite by far. Whenever he went back and Kurt Russell and them like walked out, they're like, what the?
Yeah.
And he like smashed the car. He's like, oh, that's your car?
That was awesome.
That was great.
That was cool.
Oh, he did not beat Bruce. It's like, oh, that dent in the car would say different.
That was awesome.
I love that scene. Like the guy that got to play Bruce Lee was really good.
Yeah.
I love Bruce Lee. I mean,
he was the embodiment of Bruce Lee to me. Like he was great.
He was great.
His acting.
Yeah, I thought that was fun. I don't have anything else to say about character.
Would you give it?
I gave it a 6.
6, 10.
10. Okay.
6 is probably a little low. I don't know. Like I just feel like for me, when I look for characters in a movie, I look for a lot of solid characters, and I also look for character development, like in a movie. And there wasn't a ton of that.
I get it though. I mean, not 3 main characters, and you really not liking one. Yeah, 6 makes sense.
Yeah. So. Okay. Plot. So. The plot for me, we can way overanalyze it. We can also like be like, what was the plot? And at first, I was like going home thinking about what I was going to say for this section, and my immediate thought was like, what was the plot? Because like to me, there wasn't like
there really wasn't
a plot. It was more of like a diary, like journal entry, like for like the day or for the week, and we just like followed that around. So to me, that hurt the plot overall.
Yeah.
Watching them come together for like the last hour was awesome. Like that was really well done.
Right.
And that's why I gave it a little bit higher score than I thought I would at first. I wanted to give it like a 3 because to me there was literally no plot. But watching all those things come together at the end was cool. I thought that was fun. I want to get y'all's thoughts on the lack of plot. Did you guys see like a solid plot line, or was it just a cool like let's follow these 2 people around and see what happens kind of thing?
Yeah. So the way I've interpreted the plot is like, so you're following these people around their life, so you're getting more of the story of DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, and his struggle with Hollywood. But the whole like overarching thing, even though it's not like fully probably said throughout the whole thing, is the Manson murders. And that's how it all ties up at the end. That's Brad Pitt goes to that ranch. That's when you get to see like, all the children and stuff. That's your first instance with Tex, who was actually the guy that
was actually named Tex.
And for me, that guy was kind of scary. Like he didn't play a huge part in the movie compared to everyone else, but I thought he was kind of creepy. Like whenever
for sure.
Whenever Brad Pitt was like punching the hippie guy, and then like they went and got him, I was like legitimately scared for Brad Pitt. Like, oh crap, like what's gonna happen?
Definitely.
But that whole sequence held a lot of tension for me. But for me, I see it as you're watching these people lead these lives, and if you know the overarching story, then it makes more sense plot wise, and it's kind of like it's like a Tarantino movie. Like it just kind of what happens is the real point for me takes place in the last 30 minutes, where it's like they're driving up there to kill Sharon Tate and all them, and it's just like DiCaprio just kind of cuts them off, and then that makes the story go a different direction.
That was a great scene.
That was the history
when he was like wasted and he's like out there like,
at him
with the drink mix or whatever,
carrying the thing of margarita.
Yeah,
that was great.
But that's for me where the plot takes like a big
for sure,
the alternate history thing. And but for me, it's you're just following these people through their lives, and then all of a sudden they just seem to cross at the end. All these events happen to where it just crosses at the end.
Definitely.
And so it's a giant build up if you know what's going on.
Yeah.
Right.
So to me, I gave the plot a 6 because of what I'm talking about. Like I gave it a 6 because of what we're talking about the last hour, but I also gave it a 6 because of the first hour and a half. Like there was no plot for the first hour and a half other than him like falling from grace, basically. Yeah. But then, like I said, the 6 that I gave it was because of the last hour, which I thought was super fun. From the scene where they get to the ranch on, I thought the plot picked up a lot, and I thought the climax was super fun and interesting, because like literally there was no telling who was going to die and what was going to happen. And I thought that was super cool. I don't know what you guys gave it, but to me that feels about right.
So yeah, I agree 100%. But that's just, I won't say a flaw of Tarantino's, but that's just his style.
Yeah.
Because even just watching Inglourious Basterds, same thing. It really, until the last hour of the movie, and that's where he really brings it home, last 30 minutes to last hour of every movie. He really brings it, and that's where you actually see the plot, whereas the first hour and a half of all of his movies are all character development. And that's why I gave character a 10 and gave plot a 7. And that's just, and it's really nothing against this movie, because I probably scored this higher, maybe not higher than Luke, but definitely I would think higher than you. But I really had a problem even not putting like all 10s, but then I really started thinking about it, and I was like, well, yeah, because the first, again, hour and a half it's all character development, but
great color,
which is great. That's why I gave it a 10. Yeah.
I don't know about y'all. For me, plot, like I talk about Chris Nolan a lot. Chris Nolan, like literally for plot, like I don't think
you have of him.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think I've ever watched a Chris Nolan movie and not been like, that plot was
right, because you know the plot.
Incredible.
You know the plot from minute one.
It's like you're hooked, and it just keeps going and keeps going. It develops and it develops and it develops, and it twists and it turns, and it's amazing. And there's a big reveal, and you're just like, oh.
Yeah.
To me, like that's one of the reasons I traditionally don't like Tarantino as much.
Yeah.
I do understand 100% why people like his style, because it's so unique.
Yeah.
To me, that's a turnoff a little bit. I'm interested to see some of these other movies that you're gonna let me borrow. But
yeah.
So I gave it a 6. What'd you give it?
I gave it an 8 just because, like I said earlier,
the last hour.
It's exactly what I wanted. Like the plot, like the whole character development for the first like hour and a half is exactly like. I was totally fine with it because I love the characters so much. So that was enough plot for me to rate it high.
Right.
So
That's interesting.
Like I said, I gave it an 8.
I guess if you like the characters more, then that would like unintentionally raise your plot score, because you think like it's actually more is happening than actually is happening. Yeah, that makes sense.
Like I pretty much, because I understand the Manson like murders and everything. I just know about them.
Right.
I didn't need to sit there and think about stuff, like because like they show it and I knew, I'm like, oh, that's that. So I didn't need to sit there. For me, it was a very simple movie that I didn't need to like cognitively just sit there and break down.
Right.
And so for me, it was because of that simplicity and because of I just enjoyed the character plot so much. I gave it a higher score.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Our fourth section is the conflict, tension, and urgency. This one for me was its biggest weakness, because it was elongated in a lot of ways. Like it took a long time to develop.
Yeah. The
conflict was great, I think, as far as like DiCaprio's internal conflict with himself and all the things that he was emotional about, like we've talked about. Brad Pitt's conflict was pretty interesting with like his wife and not being able to get a job, and then the weird hippie girl, like that was interesting. The tension came and went for me. Like there were certain scenes where I was like, oh, okay. And then it was like about another 30 minutes until it came back around. The last hour was full of it, and that's why I think it saved it a little bit. For me, what really killed this score for my section was the urgency. Like I didn't feel any urgency at all in this movie. Like literally,
was a slow burn kind of guy.
Yeah, for sure.
And so to me, it was just like, well, let's just wait till something happens rather than like design the story around making something happen. Yeah. So I gave this section a 5. I think that's probably a little too low, but to me, this was the biggest weakness in the movie, as far as like literally there was no incentive for me to like get really excited throughout the movie until the end. Like I said, from that ranch scene on, I was hooked. Like it was awesome. But up until that point, and even that scene, there still wasn't very much urgency until the end, because we really weren't sure what was going to happen.
Right. Oh man, not a whole lot of urgency, but tons of tension.
The tension was great from there on. And the tension in this couple of scenes where he was acting like on camera, I thought some of those scenes were really tense, and those were really cool. And the conflict was good. It wasn't great, but it was like there was never like a threat, an external threat of danger until the very, very end. Right. And so like to me, like the combination of all those things kind of weakened that score for me. I gave it a 5 out of 10. For those reasons. But what do you think, Paul?
Well, I agree, but I love how we've kind of got it perfectly set up of not knowing much about the Mansons, little bit, and I would say a lot more than the three of us. So it makes it, again, this is kind of one of those where if you don't know, and then you kind of score it low, which I completely get.
So like I said, I think if I watch it again, I think
you
the
probably
score
scored
would
higher. Yeah, and which I agree with. I mean, I put it at a 7 also for this.
That's what I gave it.
Yeah, and I mean, because I completely agree. Not hardly any urgency. Totally agree with that.
Yeah.
The conflict is really only in those really tense moments of. But I think why I scored it so high was because when those tense moments happened, it was like I was like I think for the whole ranch scene, I probably held my breath. I was like, oh my gosh, he's like, I was like, what's gonna happen? Is he gonna like walk through the door and she's gonna like blow him away with a shotgun? I was like, what's gonna happen?
I did not want him to die, and I was like, I felt like he was gonna die in that moment.
Yeah,
totally. Like every other thing, I was like, he was gonna die. I figured Tex was gonna shoot him or something. I don't know.
What was the deal with the old guy? I'd never understood that.
So,
like, I know it was like his ranch.
Yeah,
but like, what was the point of Brad Pitt's character going back there?
I think it really was just tension.
Like he noticed. I think Brad Pitt noticed something suspicious. He knew the guy, and he just wanted to go in and check things out. Like
I just think it was a way to tie in a lot of tension, but also just tie in the whole. Because I mean, that's what the Manson family did is they found some ranch way out in the middle of the desert and just lived there just that same way. And I mean, yeah, it was a weird, I thought Bruce Dern being there, you know, again, another Quentin Tarantino actor reuse. Yeah. Because he was in a ton of old Western movies. He, if you ever seen the movie The Cowboys, he kills John Wayne in that movie. Like, he's an amazing actor, so I love just having him in there. But yeah, I feel like the old man was just for tension. Really, it was the main. That makes sense. And for him to Brad Pitt to really figure it out at the end, because at the end he's like, oh, I know you, and I know you, and you.
Yeah,
like
him being
I think
on acid
that was
made it like I can't decide if I liked it or not.
That was so. It was so. It
was funny. I don't know. Like, I guess if he weren't on acid at the end, then he would have just obliterated everybody easily, and it wouldn't have been.
It just made it kind of Tarantino-esque.
It made it more. It made it more like up in the air. Like, oh, he's like high, so maybe he'll like actually get killed, or maybe he'll actually like not just destroy these people.
Right. And see, I think that was another tension thing of like, I was worried. I was like, oh man, he's just so blitzed. He's just gonna get shot immediately. But then he turns it again. So that
the dog thing was cool that they like set that up the whole movie, like how well trained the dog was, and then that came in.
I forgot about the dog honestly in that moment, and when we did like the click with his mouth or whatever, and then like the dog was like,
I was like,
they set that up the whole movie.
The flamethrower with DiCaprio, I thought that was hilarious.
So, yeah,
and then I smoked her. What?
Yeah, that was funny.
I love how they brought that back, because you see when like later or earlier in the movie when Brad Pitt goes to fix his tent, he opens up the shed. You see the flamethrower in there.
See, I didn't see that. That was funny.
And so like,
I thought it was hilarious that the first thing he goes for is the flamethrower. Like, his first instinct is like, oh, I've got a flamethrower in the back. Let me go grab that. Like, that was.
Did you guys really enjoy the fight scene at the end?
I did. Yes. I'm not a huge fan of the Tarantino style of just like ridiculousness. I don't like that as much, but I didn't mind it in this movie. Like, I think he hit the girl's face like a couple too many times for me. Like, that was just like ridiculous.
I get it.
Like, I was just like, oh my god.
But I loved it. Like,
but like a lot of people were there and they were all like laughing.
Like, Brad Pitt is a bad egg in that movie.
Yeah, for sure. And he was
also high.
And so he was like, the dog was vicious. That was crazy. The flamethrower thing, like, I thought that was pretty cool. Like, that was a cool scene for her to be in the pool, and then he smoked her with the can of beans or dog food or whatever that was.
Yeah, the dog
in the face.
That was cool.
That was freaking crazy. And her teeth were like this for like the rest of the movie. He got knifed in the hip, I think. Yeah. Okay, so like, I liked the fight scene. Like, that was a really cool climax to the movie. I just think like I said, I'm not a huge fan of.
Do you think it worked
of the Tarantino style of gore and stuff? I did like the climax. I thought, like, I guess that was the main plot of the whole movie, so it makes sense that that's like the actual climax. The resolution afterward wasn't super satisfying for me as far as like ending the movie out with like a satisfying ending, because like DiCaprio just like walks up the hill. I guess that's satisfying because he's like going to go meet like the director.
Because she's alive now. Like, if it didn't take place, she would be dead.
Right.
Well, I think...
And she's hooked up with the director, so there's a chance that he gets hooked up with like a big time movie the next time that he makes a new movie or something. Yeah. So I kind of saw that coming. I wish he would have gone to the hospital with Brad Pitt, and like Brad Pitt's character just kind of gets taken away.
Well, Brad Pitt told him to stay there. He said, "Stay, check on your wife and stuff."
True.
Like he's still being that good friend, even though.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good angle. I didn't really like the wife character. I thought she was. I thought she was just like a rushed like add-on.
It was just to show that he's like continuing. He's
moving on.
Yeah, like there's continuation in his character.
That makes sense
through time.
I liked the climax. I thought it was cool. I thought it was a cool fight scene. I actually made that note in here a couple times. But like I don't know, it was interesting, and it was super funny to watch Brad Pitt fight 3 people with.
Yeah. Well, they showed throughout the movie. They showed instances
literally
of
no
how
weapons.
Like, cool he can be. Like when we got to the roof to save the antenna, like how he freaking like parkoured up the walls.
Yeah.
Like that was like they showed that he's actually like a great.
I would have liked. That's one of the notes I forgot to mention. I would have loved to see him do stunts, like as a stuntman,
actual movie stunts,
and like actually have like so shoot it with like your camera like the way you would for the movie, but then have another camera that's like our movie that shows him like in costume and like the pads or the pulleys or whatever. Like I think they could have done several of those kinds of scenes.
Yeah, they really
only
the scene
where he jumps the car and it like says Cliff. Like that would have been cool to shoot that scene for real. Yeah, and then like let us watch like him do that. Like that would have been like I think they could have used that a couple times. But I overall, like I said, I think this movie was really interesting. Yeah, it just was slow, and it took a while to get going. What did you guys give it on that section? 7?
7, yeah.
Okay, so cinematic elements is the last section, and for cinematic elements, we include music, acting, writing, cinematography, special effects, visual effects, all those kinds of things. I gave it a 10 out of 10. I thought this was the best section of the movie. Yeah. I can never knock Tarantino for making a bad movie. His movies are so well done and well made. So I gave this section a 10 out of 10. The acting in this movie was phenomenal. I thought Brad Pitt killed it. I thought even Margot Robbie killed it for the scenes that she was in. I thought obviously DiCaprio was incredible. Yeah. And then cinematography, I really enjoyed the cinematography of this movie because I thought it was shot like a spaghetti western with the lingering shots,
or even like through the grates of the saloon door.
There were a lot of weird camera angles going on where they panned and they rolled.
And the lighting, that's another big thing about old movies is like where when he walked into the saloon and the only real light you could see was coming in through a window and you saw the dust and like that's how old movies were shot because they didn't have all these fancy lights that we have, so they had to do all natural lighting or even just like just the way they highlighted somebody's face. That's what I loved how they did it. Old school.
Did we all give 10s on that one?
I gave it a 10.
Yeah, I thought that was great.
The fact that they used practical effects too was awesome. Like I told you guys before the movie, the drive-in scene where they come up over the drive-in and you see all the cars down there and stuff. Those were actually like model cars and whatnot. Like they said they can only move like so slow and stuff to make it like still look real. And so like you tell like the cars in the back were like moving slow and like. Since knowing that, like I could kind of tell like what it was.
I looked for it, but I kind of missed it. But I'm glad you know.
It looks cool.
I could tell with the movements of the cars, but
was there any CGI in the entire movie?
There was probably a little bit, maybe in some of the Italian stuff that they did.
Well, okay, so the CGI would have came in when like they shot scenes from The Great Escape where he was talking about if he'd have got the Steve McQueen role, which I loved. That was so cool because I love that movie also.
Yeah, it was a great end.
But yeah, like that would have been the only time they would have used CGI to overimpose DiCaprio's face onto Steve McQueen.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Like I thought they made a really great movie in 2019 with no computers. Like never used a computer for hardly anything.
Like you said, acting was great. Cool. The soundtrack was really what like.
I love the music.
Yeah, they did a great job.
So in this movie, there's tons of scenes where people were just driving. Yep. And a lot of people were like, there's just a bunch of scenes where they were driving. And I was like, I love those scenes because they usually had a great soundtrack over it. And it just felt like an awesome, just like we're going on a Sunday drive with this awesome song playing.
Some important conversations happened like in the car. Yeah. And I thought that was interesting too, that they like didn't just have them like always sitting at a bar or sitting at like dinner. Like they like got rid of the.
Well, and that's what you did in the 60s too, is you drove. Yeah. You just would you would just drive everywhere, and like you would just drive for fun too. I feel like that's part of probably what Brad Pitt did for his entire day while Leo was shooting. If he didn't have other tasks to do, he would just go drive.
That's a total score of 34 out of 50 for me. That's a rough 6.8 out of 10, 68 out of 100. That's about right for me for the first viewing. Like I said, if I saw it again, it'd probably be closer to a 75, maybe an 8. You guys are probably closer to an 8 or 9.
Mine is overall is 42. So
84.
Yeah, 84%. Yeah. So I do feel like a lot of it was just a lot of nostalgia for me too. Love the cars, love the music, love the old movies, so I don't feel like I scored this overly high, but I may have been a little bit biased of just love of, because I could probably score every Tarantino movie this high in my opinion. So
I gave it a 44. I really like this movie. It's everything I want. It honestly, to me, it didn't feel like too much Tarantino until the end. The end, fight scene and stuff. But for me, it's everything I wanted. Of course, I've already said everything that makes it for me. But 44 for me.
Solid.
I'll definitely buy this when it comes out.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So to me, this, you guys would probably say this is more of so basically, I don't know if you listened to any of the shows where we talk about the tiers of movies. There's tier 1 is
I don't remember what they all are, but
yeah. So tier 1's top 25, own it, watch it a billion times. Tier 2 is own it, watch it once every 2 to 3 years. Tier 3 is maybe own it, maybe not, watch it randomly. Tier 4 is Redbox, pay to watch a dollar theater kind of thing, and tier 5 is never speak of it again. For me, this is probably tier 3 to tier 2. To tier 2, somewhere in there. I'd probably watch this again a couple of times. I'd probably watch it again in the theater. I might not own it, but I'd definitely watch it again if someone wanted to watch it again. You guys are probably gonna say tier 2,
mine's
tier 1.
Mine's tier 1, and this movie, from when I went and read a lot of the reviews and what people are saying, just comment wise on it. And to me, it seemed like you either love this movie or you're it wasn't really my thing. And so I think that's the thing with most Tarantino movies. It's it either is your thing or it's it's not. And so for me, this was definitely my thing. And that's cool.
I probably would. If I was doing it today, I probably would put this in my top 25, probably top 15 easily.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so we do meta questions at the end of our episodes. Meta questions are usually questions that are about either the actors, the directors, the movie as a whole, the series as a whole, depending on what we're talking about. I've got 3 meta questions for you guys. They're all the same question, just 3 different times.
Okay.
How would you rank this for DiCaprio movies? How would you rank this for Brad Pitt movies? And how would you rank this for Tarantino movies?
Okay.
For me, this is Brad Pitt top 2, top 3. DiCaprio number 1.
Yeah.
Maybe 2. I think I like Inception better than this movie. I think DiCaprio's better. I think DiCaprio's better in this movie than he is in Inception.
Yeah.
So that's kind of either way. For me, Tarantino, I've only ever seen this and
Inglourious Basterds.
Django. I have not seen Inglourious Basterds.
Really?
So I would say that Django's better than this in my opinion. I've only watched Django once, and it was a long time ago. So I'll go watch all these this week or next week, and then I'll let you guys know my thoughts next time we record on Tarantino. So I don't really have a very informed opinion on Tarantino, but for me, I would say Brad Pitt, maybe Ocean's movies are up there for me. Fury's up there for me. I'd say Fury's my favorite Brad Pitt movie. So it's probably 2 or 3. And then for DiCaprio, like I said, I think Inception's my favorite movie with him in it, and I think this is his best performance. Yeah. So you guys agree, disagree? What you guys think?
I'm gonna say top 2 for DiCaprio
with Inception or with Revenant or something.
Just because I'm so on a bunch of different movies. I liked him in The Departed a lot. I liked him in
Departed's good.
Oh my god, I can't remember. But yeah, there's
Titanic.
a lot of movies that no, there's a lot of movies that tie into this for me, and so it's top 1 or 2. And then Brad Pitt probably top 5. I think he has some better movies than this. And then Tarantino-wise, this is probably my favorite Tarantino movie. Django wasn't my cup of tea. Inglourious Basterds is probably my second favorite now. It was my first. This is probably a number 1 Tarantino.
easiest answer for me is this is my number one Tarantino movie for sure.
Interesting. I thought you were gonna say the other one that you really liked.
Reservoir Dogs is number 2 now.
Yeah,
for sure. It's kind of like Luke said. It just was everything I wanted in a Tarantino movie. And because, I mean, a lot of my beefs with other Tarantino movies, like Kill Bill, for instance, like the one drawback that I don't like about that movie is the blood. It's like somebody shook up a soda can and blood just spews everywhere. But still great movie. I love the movie. But so, yeah, I love that they really didn't get too into a lot of things like that, but it was all, like I said, character development. So, yeah, this is definitely number one Tarantino. As far as, Fury, and I would agree with the Oceans movie is a better Brad Pitt movie. So yeah, definitely top 5, probably top 3. DiCaprio, that's tough. Yeah, I would agree. Not number 1. Probably. Well,
do you think it's his best performance?
I would say
not
probably
his best movie.
Yes, I would agree with that. That it's his best job of acting, but maybe not the best movie he's ever been in my opinion.
I honestly hope he wins the Oscar for best lead this year.
Someone in this
I could
movie
see
could
that.
be up for it.
I think this movie is the kind of movie that has a chance of winning several different Oscars.
I could see that for sure.
Yeah.
It's my Oscar winner of the year so far.
I hope Endgame wins an award. I know Marvel movies almost never win anything, but I hope Endgame wins.
They're always discounted because it's always it's a Marvel movie.
I hope they win something, just because how epic that movie was.
Well, I mean, they threw in Black Panther this past year, so hopefully they throw in Endgame for something other than special effects and soundtrack.
Yeah, special effects because the whole movie is on a green screen.
Yeah.
Right.
That's all I got for meta questions this week. It was pretty light work because there really wasn't much else to talk about.
It's not like a universe movie. The
MCU usually has 20 meta questions.
Right.
But like I said, I think I'm probably a Debbie Downer for this movie. So if you're out there and you didn't like it, then you can probably relate more to me. But I think I'm definitely going to go see it again. Aiden wants to go watch it again. I'll probably go watch it with him because he didn't like it that much either. We were talking yesterday about it at the pool. But
you need to listen to this podcast, Aiden.
Yeah. But I'm glad you guys liked it. I think listening to y'all talk about it and then realizing what I thought about it, the more I talked about it, I think I can watch it again and appreciate it more. And then obviously knowing more about the history of it. I think that'll help a lot.
I would even just go home and Google
it up. Yeah.
The Manson murder a little bit because I read through just the little Wikipedia synopsis once I got home because I was I need to remember some of this. And
so who actually died?
All 4 of the people that were at the house.
Really?
Except for the director, because he was in London at that time.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah, the 4 people, the Sharon Tate, the
Folger's girl,
yeah. And they even used that word for word from the thing that I read anyway.
Yeah.
Her boyfriend and the other boyfriend of Sharon Tate. Yeah, those 4 people.
Oh, the weird... quirky dude.
Eisenberg or something or other.
He's the guy who was waiting for her to break up with him.
Emil Hirsch's character.
Yeah.
It was those 4, and she was 7 months pregnant or whatever, and just the whole even reasoning for that was just the craziest thing because it was all based on the people that lived in the house before them. It had nothing to do with Sharon Tate. It was just senseless killing.
Yep.
Wow.
And I love that because I really compare this movie a lot to Inglourious Basterds, which I just watched last night, which I'm glad I did because it's very similar of just a turning history into a better way. Well, maybe not, more likable way.
Yeah.
Of killing Hitler or not having Manson succeed.
It's interesting.
I just love that, but same way. So
the accuracies were good. That line that Tex says, and where he's holding that gun up, was I'm the devil. I'm here to do devil business, or
said
whatever
the same
line is.
thing.
Yeah, that's the word for word what the actual text said in history, and so the accuracy within the inaccuracy was very good.
The one other thing that I did read that was different was it was actually all 4 of them went up there to kill all 4 of them. The third girl or fourth girl. Yeah, third girl who drove away. I liked how they did that. She kind of realized she was man, this is...
Did you guys notice who it was?
It was Ethan Hawke's daughter, whatever her name is, from Stranger Things.
It's Robin, Robin from Stranger Things. The girl that works in the ice cream shop with
Really?
Steve.
I didn't realize that's who that was.
That's who it was. I was going to say something during the movie, but I didn't. Yeah, she's from Stranger Things.
She looked familiar, and that's why.
She started. I didn't see who she was, and I heard her voice, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Once they were out of the cars, where I really noticed it.
I heard her when I heard her voice, because her voice is pretty identifiable. Okay, that's all I got.
That's all I got.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Paul. So Paul's going to be our producer for the show. So he might not be on every week, but he'll be on every other or something like that.
And something like that. I mean, I may not talk as much, but I'll probably still be here mic'd up for the occasional comment or maybe even ask the meta questions or something. We'll get it all worked out.
But we're glad you came on because you're kind of a big Tarantino guy. So
I'm glad you guys were open to the ideas that I had.
So. I'll have to get myself more cultured with the ways of Tarantino.
Do it, man.
Yeah, and I mean, they're great movies. Yeah. Any questions?
Next week we're doing The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
I think we're doing The Man from U.N.C.L.E. That has Henry Cavill in it, Armie Hammer, and
I don't remember who the girl is.
The girl is in the new Tomb Raider movies.
Oh, okay.
Alicia Vikander.
So if you want to watch Man from U.N.C.L.E. before we record next time, go ahead and do that and get yourself ready.
Yep, we'll catch you for episode 16 when we finally get that recorded. So thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time. The phone's ringing.
Alright, pause.
I've never seen that happen.
We'll just let it ring out real quick.
I've literally never seen. We've recorded in here like 10 times.
And no one's it's the weekend. Leave us alone.
Right. I was like, what? I was like, what the?
Is that the alarm was starting to go off?
I was like, is our machine gonna blow up?
Fire alarm.
But Pack to Treasure playing it.
Shot of Luke's butt.
Alright, there we go. Enemy, baby.
Luke takes his shirt off about halfway through the bar.
I'm just so pumped.